Good afternoon, everyone. So, before starting, now I am presenting a case. Next slide, please. A 41-year-old woman presented to the emergency department with the history of recurrent episode of hemoptysis for 1 month following an upper respiratory tract infection. 3 weeks after the onset of symptoms, she noted fatigue, dyspnea with mild physical exertion. She subsequently noted mild pain abdomen. The patient sought medical evaluation at a clinic and amoxicillin was prescribed, and she did not take any other medication routinely. Next. On examination, the patient was afebrile and tachycardic, 105 per minute, and tachypneic respiration rate 26 per minute. Her arterial oxygen saturation on room air was 94%. She appeared generally pale. Her oropharynx was erythematous with mild tonsillar hypertrophy. Next. And on examination, chest auscultation demonstrate decreased breath sound with bibasilar rails. The findings from heart, abdomen, and neurological examination was unremarkable. No purpural lymphadenopathy, joint tenderness, or swelling were present. Next. So, in laboratory investigation revealed the normocytic anemia hemoglobin is 6.8, mean corpuscular volume 91 without eosinophilia, and raised ESR CRP were noted. Coagulation profile was normal and potassium level is 6.2 with renal E7C blood urea 98 and creatinine 12 mg per deciliter. And active urinary sediment showed the protein more than 90 400 milligram per day, and the and the urinary RBC cast is seen in the urinary sediment. Next slide. So lower portion is omitted, sir. So ABG showed the PO2 58 means the hypoxic respiratory failure is there, type 1, and chest radiograph showed diffuse bilateral patchy infiltrates, which are confirmed by the CT scan. Next. So the hemoptysis, and this is the CT scan which shows the ground glass appearance bilateral, and her echocardiography was normal, and her RT-PCR COVID-19 is not detected. Next. So from the history and laboratory investigation, we conclude the presence of hemoptysis, falling hemoglobin, and diffuse pulmonary infiltrates and hypoxic respiratory failure. All are the suggestive of diffuse alveolar hemorrhage, and which is confirmed further by the fiber optic bronchoscopy. Next. So the diffuse alveolar hemorrhage along with renal insufficiency, the diagnosis of pulmonary renal syndrome was made probably due to the small vessel vasculitis. So serological tests were ordered. So anti-nuclear antibody, anti-dsDNA, anti-Smith, anti-RNP, anti-streptolysin antibody titers, complements levels all normal, and but myeloperoxidase MPO ANCA level was elevated 76, and but the C ANCA and anti GBM antibodies are negative. Next. So the renal ultrasound shows the normal size kidney without hydronephrosis. So the renal insufficiency, so post nephrotic syndrome is excluded. Next. So renal biopsy shows the specimen revealed the 12 glomeruli with 100% crescent and 50% cellular and 50% fibrocellular. Consistence with crescentic glomerular nephritis means patient in RPGN, progressive glomerulonephritis. Next slide, please. So the diagnosis was made. The diagnosis of microscopic polyangiitis made, and the patient clinical condition improved after initiating treatment with the hemodialysis, and high-dose corticosteroid and cyclophosphamide. Next. So coming to discussion, a potentially life-threatening pulmonary renal syndrome characterized by diffuse pulmonary hemorrhage and rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis. Patients with form of ANCA-associated Moll's vasculitis have an estimated 2-year mortality rate of 90% without treatment. So treatment is very important. So up to 25% of the patient with microscopic polyangiitis die during the first episode of pulmonary hemorrhage. Next slide. So coming to the differential diagnosis, the most common cause are categorized into three main groups as defined by the 1994 Chapel-Hill nomenclature system published in Arthritis Rheumatism. So the POSI immune with few or non-vascular immune deposit and frequently associate with ANCA. So glomerulonephritis, granulomatosis with polyangiitis, microscopic polyangiitis, and eosinophilic granulomatous with polyangiitis. Another is the antiGVN deposit with Goodpasture syndrome. And immunocomplex deposit is a heterogeneous group of disease such as henoxylin purpura, cryoglobulinemia, systemic lupus erythematosus, and IgA nephropathy. So this is the common cause. So PA anchor are detected in 60 to 80% of patients with AMPA, microscopic polyangiitis, but only 25 to 40% cases it is said in case of EGPA, means eosinophilic granulomatous polyangiitis. But in case of granulomatous polyangiitis or vaginal granulomatosis, CINCA is very specific. It is providing only 90%. So two types of ANCA serological testing, that is the indirect immunofluorescence or ethanol fixed neutrophils demonstrating perinuclear P-ANCA or C-ANCA reactivity. So ELISA assay for antibodies against MPO ANCA and PR3 ANCA. So concordance between both tests raises the specificity to 99% for the microscopic polyangiitis P-ANCA and MPO, and granulomatous with polyangiitis C ANCA or PR3 ANCA. Next. So comes the pathogenesis. So anti-MPO immunoglobulin induces a systemic vasculitis and glomerulonephritis, which suggests that ANCA plays a direct role inducing vasculitis. So rises in the ANCA level with disease reactivation, implying an association between ANCA and vasculitis. So, but ANCA levels do not consistently correlate with disease activity. ANCA interferes with the normal inflammatory and neutrophil apoptotic pathway. The presence of ANCA causes neutrophil to undergo apoptosis more readily, thus exposing more PR3 ANCA and MPO ANCA targets on their surface and precipitating secondary neutrophil necrosis in the vascular lamina. Next. So activated neutrophil releases cytokines, lysozymes, reactive oxygen species, and other pro-inflammatory mediate continues to recruit more T cell and monocytes, which augments the vascular necrotic process. As the cycle perpetuates, the immune complex are quickly dissolved by neutrophil, thus explaining the minimal amount of immune deposit seen in case of biopsy specimen. Next. So, in the lung, the diffuse alveolar hemorrhage results when the necrotizing pulmonary capillaries comprises the vascular lumen, allowing the red blood cells to spill directly into the alveolar space that causes hampering the gaseous exchange. So, concomitant inflammatory process such as upper respiratory tract infection may instigate the pathological ANCA neutrophil interaction, thereby causing a flare of vascular inflammation and necrosis. Next. So in the kidney, the rapidly progressive glomerular capillaritis causes extracapillary cell proliferation in the Bowman space, creating crescent-like shape, that is crescentic glomerulonephritis. This leads to development of severe glomerular injury and progressive rapid loss of renal function. Next. Next. So serological test results, so positive P ANCA in our patient. So initially suggesting that ANCA associate small vessel vasculitis because GPA sometimes P ANCA 5 to 10% cases GPA shows P ANCA positive. But microscopic polyangiitis and eosinophilic granulomatous is usually positive in case of PI. P ANCA is positive in these cases. So considering the Chapel-Hill classification for pulmonary renal syndrome, anti-GB Goodpaster syndrome was less likely because lack of anti-GBM serology results, and immunocomplex or were less likely because negative all type of rheumatological serology results and no immunocomplex deposits on the patient renal biopsy specimen. Next. Next. So among the GPA and microscopic polyangiitis, granulomatous polyangiitis, and EPGA, among the three, granulomatous polyangiitis are less likely because it is negative C anchor, lack of granulomatous appearance, and absence of characteristic involvement of ear or otitis media or sinusitis and mouth ulcer. But eosinophilic granulomatosis with polyangiitis is less likely because it is absence of eosinophilia and fibrinoid or granulomate appearance of the renal biopsy, and there is no history of asthma or atopic syndrome. So thus, after extensive clinical and serological and histopathological analysis, we made diagnosis of microscopic polyangiitis. Next. So microscopic polyangiitis is a non-granulomatous necrotizing small vessel vasculitis. It's often characterized by active glomerulonephritis, 80% to 100% of patient, and pulmonary capillaritis is 10 to 30% of the patient. The disease is typically associated with PANCA and lack of immune deposit on the immunofluorescence. So microscopic polyangiitis may present as a spectrum of systemic vasculitic symptoms, including fever, anorexia, weight loss, malaise, myalgia, arthralgia, and anemia. Next. So in addition to the typical pulmonary and renal involvement, non-specific inflammatory organ damage may occur in the heart, liver, skin, GI tract, gallbladder, pleura, and peripheral lungs. In the long term, recurrent episode of pulmonary hemorrhage may result in obstructive lung disease and pulmonary fibrosis, and progressive renal damage may lead to dependence on hemodialysis. So, microscopic polyangiitis is uncommon in India. The average age is on this about 50 years. The disease is more frequently seen in male, with male and female ratio approximately 1:8. And microscopic polyangiitis is more common in Southern Europe, but glomerular nephritis with polyangiitis is more common in Northern Europe. Next. Next. So the cause of microscopic polyangiitis is unclear. However, silica exposure and synergistic infection and certain drugs such as propylthyracil and minocycline has been shown in case reports to induce the syndromes of microscopic polyangiitis. Next. So, how to treat them? The standard treatment involves the rapid induction with both corticosteroid and cyclophosphamide. So, intravenous methylprednisolone, 1000 milligram per day for 3 days, followed by oral prednisolone 1 mg per kg per day, and cyclophosphamide 1 gram at the interval of 2 weeks for 3 pulses, followed by 1 gram at the interval of 3 weeks for 3 to 6 pulses. It depends on the response. So, which controls the disease in 80% to 90% of the patient. Combination therapy is always recommended instead of corticosteroid alone because it is associated with, combination therapy associated with lower frequency of relapse. Next. So when the remission is achieved, the prednisolone can be tapered slowly and corticosteroid for up to 10 milligram per day or 10 milligram every other day is given for total 12 to 24 months. So maintenance therapy is continue with azathioprine 2 mg per kg per day for another 12 months. Next. So now conclude this. So microscopic polyangiitis is a potentially fatal disease if it is not recognized and treated early. In the case described above, the what initially presented as a post-infectious residual scar was actually active pulmonary hemorrhage, severe anemia, and crescentic glomerulonephritis. So significant improvement was achieved with hemodialysis and aggressive treatment with corticosteroid and cyclophosphamide. This case exemplifies a classical presentation of microscopic polyangiitis and demonstrates the importance of prompt diagnostic evaluation and early treatment to prevent rapid deterioration. So early recognition and highly aggressive immunosuppressive treatment achieved significant suppression of the disease. Thank you.